I have a distinct memory as a child of playing with my Barbies and my Barbie friendship airplane, which was awesome, by the way, and thinking to myself, I am so lucky I was born a girl because I get to play with dolls. Those poor boys don't get to have this much fun. I have always felt that I am a girl through and through. I identify strongly as an AFAB cis-het woman. That's a mouthful. Some of you might be wondering what the heck I'm talking about, so let me break it down for you. AFAB means assigned female at birth. That refers to my anatomy and my genetics, although there are some exceptions to that. To be cisgendered is to have my gender align with my sex registered at birth. And het refers to heterosexual, which is my sexual identity, not to be confused with my gender. Mind blown. This morning I want to share how my understanding of something I once thought was simple has become much more spacious. I want to break down some of these concepts and maybe help us find our way to more understanding. Who am I to be talking about this as an AFAB cis-het woman? I'm here as a mother to a non-binary son who uses they/them pronouns, and also as a middle school principal who has worked with many students questioning their gender identity. What is gender? For most of my life, I've thought about gender in the binary. You're either male or female, simple as that. And as for me, it really was simple. I am female, full stop. She, her pronouns, thank you very much, moving on. But for many people, it isn't as easy as that. And growing up, I always knew people like that. Girls who weren't really girly, we called them tomboys. Boys that weren't really masculine. There were some not so kind names for those boys that I won't say here. We labeled them, moved on, but what was really happening there? Well, some of us feel very secure on either end of the gender spectrum. Some don't identify strongly at one end or another, and for others, they feel strongly they're not male or female. But instead, sit in the middle, holding both and neither identity. My son uses the words non-binary and queer to describe themselves, along with they/them pronouns. For many young people today, as they move into puberty and adolescence, they begin to question who they are. I don't think this type of questioning was available to me or my peers when I was in my early teens. I don't remember having a choice. You were either male or female. In the 80s, when I grew up, there weren't any alternatives. You had to be one or another. Well, the world has changed, and we've moved beyond the binary to a spectrum of possibilities. As I mentioned before, I think the experience of this spectrum has always been around, but now we have more words to define it, and these words have given people options that they may not have felt that they had before. I'll be honest, there was a time when I didn't fully understand why people shared their pronouns, especially when they seemed obvious. I would think, I'm she, her, you can tell that just by looking at me. But over time, I've come to understand that offering my pronouns isn't really about me. It's about creating space. It's a small way of signaling that this is a place where people are invited to name themselves rather than be assumed. For those of us who didn't grow up with this language, it can feel unfamiliar, sometimes confusing, sometimes even uncomfortable. Kids today. As the mother of a non-binary child, I often share with others that my son, and they still think of themselves as my son, Ben uses they/them pronouns. And when I do so, it isn't uncommon for people to respond that they have an issue with the grammar. As a former English teacher, I certainly know the importance of grammar. However, the grammatical implications of my child's identity choices are the very least of my worries. I'm worried about how they will be treated in the world. I'm worried if they'll find friends who understand them. I'm worried about their mental health and their safety. And to address the grammar argument directly, they, them can be used as a singular pronoun when we don't know the gender of something. Here are some examples. Someone left their jacket here. If anyone calls, tell them I'll call them back. We do it without even realizing it, and have been for years. And we say they are, not they is, so the grammar still works. So please, I beg of you, don't mention the grammar argument to me. Honestly, it's a sore spot. I can remember a time when it was commonplace to use he as a generic pronoun, and it was assumed that it represented all genders. We've moved on, friends. Let it go. Using someone's preferred pronouns is a small, everyday way of saying, I see you. I'm willing to let my habits shift so that you can feel known and cared for. At the center of our faith is love, not certainty, not being right, but being in right relationship with one another. We also value transformation, adapting to a changing world, and equity, the acknowledgement that every person is inherently worthy and has the right to flourish with dignity, love, and compassion. Thus, I believe it's incumbent on us as UUs to adapt to these new concepts of gender as part of our changing world and to recognize the inherent worth of all genders with dignity, love, and compassion. As a person who identifies strongly as a cis-het AFAB woman, I may not truly understand what it is like to feel that I don't align with my gender assigned at birth, but I do my best to accept and love those who feel differently than I do. If they ask me to use a different pronoun, I am honored to do so. And yes, it is hard, and yes, I make mistakes. My child has been he, him to me for 23 years. It's a long habit, and I still get it wrong, but I keep trying, because trying is how love shows up. This may be new to many of us, and new things are confusing. Changing ideas and concepts that we've held for years of our lives is no easy task. We begin by exploring the possibility that what we have always thought might be wrong. Gender is only one example of this. There are so many binaries that we can get swept up into beyond male and female. Let's all open ourselves up and make space for a wider spectrum of options and allow for things to exist that we might not fully understand. What if the world is wider than we were taught? And what if our love is meant to grow wide enough to meet it? That kind of love asks something of us. It asks us to believe even when we don't fully understand, even when we're still learning, even when the path isn't clear. Thank you. I have a prayer to offer, which will follow with a moment of silence. Blessed are we who gather with open hearts together in this space today. Blessed are we, the chalice lighters of resistance, justice, love, and faith. Blessed are we, the heretics, the outcasts, the walkers of our own way. Blessed are we, the border crossers, the refugees, the immigrants, the poor, the wanderers who are not lost. Blessed are we, the transgressors, the trespassers, the passers-by, the cause takers, the defiant, the compliant. Blessed are we, the hand extenders, the sign makers, the protesters, the protectors. Blessed are we, the trans women, the trans men, the non-binary, the cisgender, the multigender, the no gender. Blessed are we, the friend, the stranger, the lonely, the hidden, the visible, the authentic. Blessed are we who rise in solidarity. Blessed are we who cannot. Blessed are we who do not. Blessed are we, for this is our beloved community, and this is who we are.